Good morning. So hopefully you guys have noticed this about in the course homepage. You got textbook resources, all the PowerPoint, source code. But the thing is, you are better off, particularly the Linux. We are working in Linux. Better off doing this source code copying in Linux. Okay, so you can copy everything this way. And it may give some errors with respect to some executable. Just ignore those. Main thing you need is the source code. This is a PPT. That's a source code if you want to download to your Windows machine. But again, I encourage you to just copy that to your use this mechanism. Okay, that way you have it in your Linux, your Unix account basically. Okay. Then here are few videos of Linux command, not all, some backcourt operator, grep and chmod exarg. So when you get a chance, review those. We did cover grep little bit. Chmod I'll try to cover too. Exarg also will cover little bit, but I'm sure they cover little bit differently, different examples. So I'll cover that. Okay. We're supposed to start on C++ today. So I'll finish off the my goal is to finish off the Linux commands and then get started on C++. Okay. Okay. The chmod command. So chmod command, change mode, that's what it stands for. So by default, that's the permission it gets, ls.txt. So that's a default permissions. Okay. So this is read, write, execute for group, read, write, execute for others. Okay. So execute obviously doesn't make sense for txt files. Let's go to bin directory. Turn in, right? You guys are using my turn in right here. Permissions. We have a execute permission. I can do read, write, execute. You guys can read and execute, right? And the read and execute. This plus sign, ignore it for now. I'll cover it later. Okay. So let me do one more thing. Yay shows the dotted entries too. So you can see the first character is special. If anything other than the regular file, it shows what it is. It says directory. See, right? So directory, and there are some special meaning for reading and executing directories. I'm not too worried about that. You can look into that. We can discuss in discussion forum. Okay. I just want to focus on the files alone. So you have read, write, execute, read, write, execute, read, write, execute. If you have simply data files, it won't have execute, right? So I saw in the test directory, right? So it just uses read, write. For directories, it has special meaning. Execute means I think you can search the directory or something. Look into that. So this one, let's say this file, I want to give the permissions to others. You can do chmod. There are two major ways you can do. Let's say I want to give full permissions to others. You can do something like that. What does that mean? That's an octal notation. 0, 7 is 111, right? 7, octal notation, it's 111, right? So this is, since this is 3 bits, the octal notation becomes very handy. So if I want to give permission for everybody, it's a 777 ls.text. Now let's look into that. You have full permissions. Can everybody see? Okay. So particularly from the back. Okay. Okay. Good eyesight. That's good. So So what about I want to give permission only for my group? What would be a command to, let's say, only for my group, people who are in my group? What do I mean by group? If I do ID, see, it shows that's me, my user ID, and that's a group ID. And there are a few additional groups too. But for now, let's keep it simple. Let's say one group. Let's assume it's just one group. Okay. So if you want all the people in this group, if I want to give permission to ls1.text, then what should be the command? 07. That 7 is for me, the owner. The next is 7. That's for the user. In fact, if I want to give the user only read and execute, let's say, I can do 7.5. 5. What is the 5 for? 101, right? So 101. Okay. So that means read on and execute on, not write. Okay. So you can do something like that. ls1 minus ls1.text. See, 7. Right? Read 111, and then this is 101, right? Are you with me? So dash is kind of considered like a off, right? So 101, and that's a 000. Okay. So that's one way to do. Okay. Let's see. Let me go to public HTML. Remember, it's my website, so you should have a lot of access for everybody. See, you have a bunch of directories and stuff, everything. You have a lot of read, write, execute for me, obviously. For others, group and others, because remember, this is through the web access, which means I should need to give read access for a lot of everybody. Only then they can access. Okay? So, okay. So let's see, let's go back here. I'm going to remove this thing, remove that too. Let's create it again. Back to default permissions. Okay. I want to give permission for everybody. Execute really doesn't make sense. Okay. So you can do 666 without execute permission. There you go. You don't need to say 0777. You can just say 777. Okay. You don't need that 0. Okay. So see here I didn't write as 06666. You know. So this 6 is it's octal notation, right? So so basically octal notation. So when you say 777 or 666, that is basically 111, right? This is also 111. This is also 111. So if we write, for example, let's take some other case. 6, I don't know why you would do 65. 7, 4, 0. Well, 7 is 111, 4 is 100, this is 000. So this is what? Read, write, execute bits. Read, write, execute. Read, write, execute. Right? Read, write, execute for the owner. Second one is for the group. For my group, you have a read permission, no write or execute permissions, and for others, no permissions at all in the 740. So this is the owner, first octal digit. Next one is for the group. This is for the everybody. Really, I should say all probably. Okay. Yes. D. So the question is, what does the D stands for here? That's a directory. So anything other than the file, typically something will appear here. Okay. Remember we saw the links earlier. the symbolic links, see there, right there, there's a L to show. So anything other than the file, the first letter is kind of special. So it's a special file. Okay. In some other directory, you will see, let's see, character device. Okay. So like that, there are some special few characters. That's D, C, L are the very popular ones. Okay. Same command you can use for directory. Absolutely. Yeah. So you can use the same command for directory, and checking something here. Yeah. See, let's say you have a directory structure. Let's say you have a directory structure, right? This is a file, this is a file, that's a directory, that's a file, that's a directory, that's a file, let's say. Let's say you give everybody read permission. Our web page is a great example. Let's say this is my web page, my home directory here. That cannot be a file, that's a directory. So this is the, let's say, my public HTML. Public HTML, right, directory. So that's how when you do the ~JUIV, that's the directory you access. Okay. So let's go ahead and add one directory there too, subdirectory. Let's say I want this file to be accessed by everybody, this file. Everybody, why would you put something in a public HTML? Mainly for others to access, right? So whatever reason, let's say I don't want other files, but this file I want to be accessed by everybody. So I can do chmod for this. After creating, right, for this guy, chmod 07. 0 is a habit, by the way. You don't need a 0, zero indicates that this is not a decimal, something special. That's all it is. You don't need it. 7 and 5 and 5. I don't know why you need execute permission. At the minimum, write. Let's go with a simple file. 0644. That's a very common permissions you do. What does that mean? Read write for me, the owner. Read permissions for the group and others. Okay. By the way, 604 won't make any sense. Why would you suppress something for users and but everybody can get it? That doesn't make sense. Okay. So typically owner has the most permission, group has little bit less, others have less. So or they're all equal. Okay. However, what about this directory? Let's say this directory, the one above, if that doesn't have read permission, read execute permission, actually execute is kind of able to search. If you don't have, then you cannot access this at all. You need the path also to have same permission, see. So only if you have the path permissions, then you can access. So we have to make sure these guys also have the similar permissions. Okay. So in fact they need probably 755. So directories need that execute permission so that you can go in and search. Okay. So you need these permissions to go to access that file. Because why is this? Because when you do, so when you go to the web, right, you are utdallas.edu until the JUIV, that's this place. See, it directly lands there, right? Not in my home directory, it's in the web, directly lands in the public HTML directory. So then, whatever directory name this is, right? So let's say it's X, right? Let's say this one name is, let's come up with a name, XX, let's say. So then it has to be XX here, the file name. Let's say the file name is ls.txt. ls.txt. So you need permissions along the way. Okay, so to access XX and also to then to access ls.txt. Yes.
The files by default inherit directly the permissions.
So do the files inherit the permissions? Yeah. So give me 1 second. I will cover that. Okay. So why did we do this? I just wanted to show you the directory structure and doing all this. So let's say one particular directory structure you have bunch of files. Let's say you want to just open, expose the whole directory, everything below it to others. Let's say that's where that option comes in. Right there. You have a directory structure, one directory, and below that bunch of some more directories, below that more subdirectories, just like what I have here, right? See, let's say I change my mind and I want to provide read permission for the whole particular directory structure. You can do that command. What command you can do? chmod -r and give the permission, give the directory name, it will go down and boom, to change the permission for all the stuff below that directory, which is very convenient, right? Let's say you want to expose particular data, let's say you ran a workshop or you did something, you finished your work, you have a bunch of files, you want to expose the whole directory to others, you show to the whole world. You just do the chmod -r, that directory name, the top level directory name, below that everything will get the same permissions. Okay? So that will take care of in one shot. Wow, look at that expression. Okay, so let's go back here and I'll show you one more thing. That's not the only way to use chmod. Okay? There is other ways to use chmod. You can specify, that is a little bit geeky way, all these numbers, right? So another way would be, I have this ls.txt, this permissions, I want to get rid of them. Group and others minus read write. That looks like a lot more plain English, right? Change permissions. For group and others, I want to remove the read and write permissions. It's gone. chmod user owner, I don't know O or U, we'll see, find out. Even for me, remove the read and write permission. It has no permission. 100% safe, nobody can access. Okay, locked, and you don't even know the key, have the key. Okay, what happens when I do cat ls.text? It's my own file, but it's permission denied. Well, I don't have a read permission, see? Are you with me? Yeah, I don't know why you would do that. Maybe accidentally. One thing we do is that we may do read only just to avoid the accidental update. See, read only, yes.
How can you set who can change the permissions for each file?
Owner, you have the owner of the file, see?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, owner is the only one who can do the change the permissions of the file. So the owner is a separate, right, the user, right? Remember that inode structure? Yeah, so again the question was who can change the permissions for the files? It's a owner, okay? You can also do, once you create a file, there's some command, change owner. You can donate a file to somebody else. Give the access, ownership to somebody else, you know. Rarely used, people just copy, you know, stuff. Okay, so that's another way. So we saw all this delete, okay, and you saw this command too. See, this is a deleting the permissions, right? And I don't know whether O works. Let's try O. I want to give the write permission to owner. I guess it works too. No, others. O went for others. See, that's a strange permissions. You just give write for every whole world, but not yourself. Let's see what happens. You try to write. Permission denied. chmod user, that's owner, write permission, chmod. I think you can do a comma also there. Okay. Owner, I gave write permission. For others, I removed that write permission. What I got incorrectly had given. Okay. So that's a really simple introduction to chmod. There was one question about default permissions. See, when you do ls.txt, when you create, now I don't have anything. See, when I create a new file, how is that permissions? It gets this default permissions. That's a setting for that too. That's another command called umask, universal mask or something. This is the permission you want to mask when you are creating new directory, new file. This is the permission you don't want to give, basically. So this is the permission to mask. So what is this 66066? 000 110 110, right? Are you with me? 066 means 000 110 and 110, right? So what it's saying is, for me, do not suppress. For the owner, do not suppress anything. But for the group and others, suppress the read and write. Execute, we don't worry too much about execute because when you create files, typically files are created with regular files, so that the most important thing is that first two, read and write, read and write, read and write. Okay, so let's see then how do you change. Let's say whatever you create, you want to give read permission for everybody. Well, then I want to suppress only less. I want to suppress only the right one. So 033. No. 022. 2 stands for 010, right? So let's see if I do that. So 022 means 000. Remember, this is octal notation. Remember that? So 010, 010. That's what it means, stands for. So do not suppress anything for the owner. Suppress the write access for others, all group, and write access for others. Okay. Let's create a file. Let's see what happens. ls. There you go. ls2. It has suppressed only the write permissions. Everybody gets automatically, by default, everybody gets the read permissions. So this umask what is the one that controls, and once you issue the command, it's applicable for rest of the session. Well, then how do you do that something? How do you change something by default? Well, you have the startup files. Depending on your the shell, these are the startup file. This is a session startup file. This is the, for every time you invoke the bash shell, this invokes. This is invoked. Okay. So let's see whether there is a setting already specified. There you go. Bash RC, bash. Resource script or something. I don't know what that RC stands for. Anyway, so that's a startup file .bash RC in your home directory. Okay, so you can edit that. You can edit that right there. Right at the top, you see the umask 066. You can change that setting. If you want the default permissions, you want to change, you can change that setting. So again, umask says what to suppress. Okay. I was planning to cover umask later, but since there was a question, so I went ahead and covered. Okay. So this is the permission I want to mask when you are creating the new files. What is this? It's a read write for others, read write for read write for group and read write for others. Okay. Okay. Is that clear how the default permission works? So it's not derived from directory or anything like that. It's really independent of whichever directory you are in. Okay, directory permissions do not automatically come for the files. Okay, but you can play with the umask though. So let's say you are working with a super secret project, so you want to really make sure nobody has access. 066 is pretty good, I think. So let's see what happens when you create a executable. I have a bunch of CPP files here. Let's see. And what is my umask? Umask 066. Yeah, it always writes as 0066 because that's again octal notation thing. For you owner, nothing is masked. That's why it says 066. Okay. So let's see. I have a CPP file. So do I have a executable? Yes, I have a executable. So let me get rid of the executable. So let's do first compilation in Linux, g++ r.cpp. So we compiled and we created executable. Since I didn't say any executable, so right there is the executable. A.out is the executable. Look at the permissions. Read write execute for me. Others automatically get the execute permission. Why is that? Umask. Umask has 0066, right? So which means 6 stands for 110. Execute permission we did not mask, so others already got execute permission, which is kind of strange. Usually read and execute goes together for executables. I don't think you can run this directly. You can try in your machine. You can try to execute this A.out like this. Tell me what happens. For me it will run. Let's see. I don't know what's doing. I didn't even look at the code. At least it's running. So is it running for you? Running? Okay. So it didn't say permission denied. Does it say permission denied? No, it's running. So that's how it is. Okay. So that means you have access. Let's do some little bit talkative program instead of very silent one. I see. We should have looked at the code. Okay. These are now more serious programs. Let's see. R1 CPP. Okay. Oh, it's probably waiting for some input. That's what it is. Yeah, so it's a scan 2 integers. Okay, try that again. Try that. I deleted. Okay, G++. G++ RCPP. Okay, so try that again. And 5 and 10. There you go. So you are able to run it because you have the execute permissions. Well, what if I don't want to give this type of permission by default? What should it be? What should the umask should be? When I create executable, I don't want to give permissions to others. Yes? 077. Okay? So now it's really nobody gets any permissions. Let me go ahead and do this G++ again. By the way, to run the previous G++ command, you can do this. Okay, now let's look into A.out. You guys try to run it again. Tell me what happens. Permission denied, right? So because you don't have the execute permissions. For me it will run because I have the execute permissions, see? But you will not have permissions. So hopefully it kind of umask is clear now. So the higher the number here, more suppression it is, so others get less privileges. Okay, I didn't want to spend this much time in this. Okay, that's okay. Let's go back here. There are few advanced commands, SED, stream editor. Okay, so I'll probably run through them very quick. SED, ls, and SED, search and replace all the XX becomes YY. Stream editor, that's just one command. SED can do lot of things. Okay, so now see, wherever there was XX, it became YY. There you go. Okay, wherever there was XX, it was replaced by fun. Hey, here you see there was a 4 X's there. It became just first portion alone became fun. This XX remains as XX. We don't want that. So we want more. Repeat in the line. There you go. Fun. Double the amount of fun. Okay. So there are a lot of options. This is a source string. That's a destination string. And all that. In the web, I'm sure there's a lot of examples, so look through that. Awk, I won't even go inside. It's a language by itself. Okay. So again, you can look at the web Perl. You guys might have done Perl scripts. So you can Perl and the script name you can run. Echo is useful to get a list or something like that. Let's see. Echo star. Not that echo star, that's different. Echo star, star just matches with everything, right? So you can do echo star WC minus word. How many words in that? I don't know how it accounts. Let's see. Oh, the whole thing is as a one word. Okay, so that means there's only 107 files here. If it's not shared, this will count, the word count will count this as 2 words or 1 word. So it's saying 1 word, see. So this whole thing is 1 word. That's how it counts. So in scripts we will use this, not in command line. Command line typically we don't use this, okay. In scripts somewhere it's useful. Okay. Calendar, we saw that. Xargs. Xargs is a kind of a little bit interesting one. Was there a video on Xargs? Yeah, there is a video on Xargs. Okay, so you can look through that too. I will again show a few examples. So let's see, vi x.txt 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 and 10, let's say. Okay, so cat x.text, it shows like this. What if I want to show only 2 in each line? You can say do something like this, xargs 2 and something like this. What it means is it reads the standard input. Xargs it's going to run this command with variable number of or specified number of arguments. So it reads the stuff. It attaches the ones behind this echo command and runs. So let me run it. See? So it reads all this stuff, reads 2 arguments at a time, 2 words at a time. So 1 and 2 goes first and attaches here after the command, and it runs this command. 3 4, next thing is 3 4, it runs the command again. So the echo command, this command is run again and again and again. So echo 1 2, echo 3 4, echo 5 6, echo 7 8, echo 9 10. Okay, so let's see. So what will happen if it's a 3 per line? Nice, isn't it? So what if you want 5 per line? You can just say 5. Now let's look at the text first. You have 2 of those things. So let's say 4 per line. It simply ignores the white, it uses the white spaces, new lines as the kind of like a word separators and just reformats. Okay. Why is this useful? Well, there may be some command that uses only one, accepts only one parameter. I know ls is not such a command. So if there is some other command that accept only one parameter, and this is the way to do it. So so you can do, that way it just runs with one parameter alone. You have to play with it, watch that video as well, okay? So to kind of get full understanding. We simply don't have time to stay here for a long time. Make, we'll cover it separately. This is a common output common lines of file, compares the sorted files. So given 2 sorted files, it compares the contents. Okay, so maybe I can just show you a very quick example. x1 1 2 3 4, x2 1 3 4, x1.text, x2.text. So what this saying is actually it's a 3 lines of outputs. So let me change this to 1 2 3 4 5. Okay. So now x1 has 1 2 5, x2 has 1 3 4. X2, let's make it 6. That way each one has something unique. X1 has 1 2 5. X2 has 1 3 4 6. 2 is missing. So what happens when you do com1 com like this? 2 and 5 are unique in the file 1. 6 is unique in the file 2. 1 3 4 are common. That's what this means. Okay. So this is kind of column wise they are showing. Okay, there are some options to suppress which ones, and there are all kind of stuff, see, it suppresses unique ones. So 1 means unique to this file, 2 is unique to this file, and so it prints only common stuff. That's what it means. So how useful, I'm not sure, this one. So diff is difference between file. This is very heavily used between a source file. Let's say you have 2 versions of the file, you want to see the differences, you can do diff x.cpp x. There's no such file. Okay, diff x1.text, x2.text. It's probably easier if you have a source file. Let's see. X here, I'm just going to write it as x1 cpp, and let me get rid of this line. Okay, so diff xpp x1 cpp. What it's saying is the second file has this extra line. How about I go to x.cpp x1.cpp and delete some other line. So now if I do the same thing, see, this original file has this additional lines near line number 6. and this file has this additional line, something like that. Okay, so what are the unique lines in individual files? x1.cpp, yeah, so x1 has this namespace standard, whereas x it doesn't have that. See, so x doesn't have it and the x1 has it. That's why it shows this. I know there's a lot of details. And we are trying to do like super fast pace. You really have to try on your own too. Okay, so so paste command. Paste command. You did the cat xpp like this. That shows one file after the other. See, one file shows, and beyond the next it shows the next file. If you want to do parallel, side by side, you can do paste, just like pasting the two papers. See, it looks all crazy, but at least in the top you can see that's x.cpp, that is from the x1.cpp, you know. So that's because my sizes are too big, it's wrapping around, everything becomes very messy. Hopefully for you it looks better. Okay, I can change this little bit just for sure. Probably cannot see anything. A little bit better, not a lot better by any means. If you have kind of tabular data or something, then you can do side by side. What are the files we have dealt with? x1.txt. Okay, paste x1.txt, x2. There you go. See, now it shows side by side. Okay. You are overwhelmed with information. I can see that. Okay, let's go on. This is the ways you can find additional information. You can do what is command, man command, info command. I believe info was introduced in Linux. The man was there in Unix, and so that is still carried on, and this was a Linux thing. So just the output format is different, and I think the new commands are under info. I guess. So see, you can do man ls. Okay, so manual page, and what is the first one we said? What is ls is kind of shows what it is, just a very short description. Sometimes it can be in two subdirectories too. I'll probably cover that later. Two manual pages. There are multiple manual pages, so if you want actually the one of them, one specific one, you can say like that, section 1pls. So that will be coming. Oh, it's POSIX. Okay, POSIX programmers manual. Okay. Sometimes commands are listed in multiple sections too. Okay, later we'll come across more detail. So what's the next one? Info ls. See, it goes to kind of this bit strange how the thing. So like Emacs, page down. Yeah, page down works too. Not only page down works. See this menu, wherever you have this star, you can enter, you will see more information. It's kind of like a clickable things, except that you are entering. You know. So okay, so finally Q works. Quit. Hey, good. Okay, so apropos, this is like a search. So all the commands, wherever the list appears, just list all the commands. You get tons of commands, and somewhere in there probably ls is buried in. If the title, it does have list, so you should see apropos list should list the ls somewhere. Ls right there. You can grab too, sure. Well, the whole idea was we pretended as if we don't know ls, the command, so that's why we did this. Okay, so you can do that too. I guess even then it lists a lot of things. There's a lot of ls. Okay, that's for additional information. Of course, you can always Google for it. Linux ls command, it will give you nice documentation and explanation, so on. So we covered a lot of these things already. Each user has a user ID, can belong to multiple groups. You saw that here when I did ID. See, that's a user ID, that's a username, that's my default group ID, but I can be in the additional groups too. Okay. Each file has directly 3 sets of permissions. We saw that. And owner group others, and process ID, job ID, I think we covered on that day. Remember the sleep command. Let's say I do this. If I do run it in the background, that's a job ID 1. That's my account, first job. But that's a process ID. That process ID is within this system. There is only 19981. Okay. So if you run a command in your system right now, right, you will get here this 1 too, because that is your job ID. But this ID will be different. You will get your own process ID. Okay, it will not be 9981. Okay, this is unique in the CS2, whereas this is unique only in your session. Okay, so now it's running the background. I can say jobs. Okay, I can bring it to foreground. Brought the job to foreground. I can press Ctrl Z to stop it. Now it has been stopped. I can run it in the resume, running it in the background. So all these controls you have. Let's say you are running some serious number crunching job and people are complaining that you are really slowing the machine down. Okay, what you can do, you can bring it to foreground, and I don't know whether that's a stop command or pause. This and all is a bash commands, I guess. Okay, so you can do the bring it to the foreground, that job. Then you can do the Ctrl Z to kind of put it in pause mode. Let's do that too again. So Ctrl Z, that's one way to stop. Now the job has been stopped, meaning it will not run in the CPU at all, right? Until you resume it. So resume it once it's evening, you are ready to go home, you can put it in the background. You're running the job in the foreground, background. You can bring it to foreground too. Anytime if you want to bring it to foreground, you can bring it to foreground. So these are all job control commands. Okay. This is the good time to stop.